we're really trying to create family more than anything else. And family is a difficult thing for a lot of these kids. And I experienced that growing up myself. Even though I had a kind of a nuclear family, my family was not real tight with each other. And I think as more separated and as polarized as our communities are right now, the more that they can come to a single place and feel like they belong and they can find some purpose and that they can have a view of what their life might be in the future, the better.
Hey there, welcome to Two Pastors Unplugged. I'm Rick Probst. This guy I like already because A, he has a beard, and I think Ezra, he has a beard, of course, too, and he loves to book. The bearded pastors, there's some kind of special something about those bearded pastors. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
Wouldn't you agree, Pastor Brent?
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely.
Pastor Brent Ritter is the student and discipleship pastor of Hope Church. He's pretty much done it all. Worship leader in places, been to many traditional churches, denominational churches, and has been at Hope Church for a while and doing some great stuff there. We're going to talk about what's going on. Now, 40 years. Now, you and I had just talked about this before we started recording. 40 years as a student ministry, a student and discipleship pastor. You've seen some changes over the years.
Yeah, well, actually 30 years, but 30? Yeah. Sorry about that. But 30 years since 1994, a little bit more than that. And definitely lots and lots of changes.
Now, when you first started, I mean, how did you become a pastor? And you started off with, I mean, I know you did worship, you've done discipleship. Which was first, the chicken or the egg? What'd you do first?
Kind of started as worship, probably more so than anything. And that was kind of like the first real thing. And I was working as a worship leader for the youth ministry and also a small group leader and working at a church in Richmond, Virginia. And was there, had kind of grown up in the same youth group and then started working for that youth group. But got into actually being the youth pastor there through one of those things that kind of happened a lot. Well, it doesn't happen a lot, but it happens when it shouldn't, when somebody there has a moral failing. And our pastor had a moral failing, our youth pastor. And I got laid off from a job on Monday and was whining with God on Tuesday and being a jerk. And on Wednesday, I was sitting in a meeting as the new youth pastor for the church and taking over. And I God knew what he was doing, but I didn't at the time. So, but it's been a cool run since then for a long time.
Sounds like your head was swimming there for a second, though, as fast as moving.
Yeah, I was working as a network administrator in a computer company while I was a worship leader, and I went in on Monday for lunch. Went in Monday for work, went to lunch, came back from lunch, didn't have a job, and then Tuesday afternoon got a call from the pastor. Wednesday morning started at the church. So
now I know what some folks are thinking. How could you leave God's country of Virginia and move to Georgia, right?
Well, I was in the computer industry, and so I ended up going to Cleveland, Tennessee to study and get a degree in pastoral ministry because I wanted to have the theological background. And I was supposed to go back to Virginia while I was there. My pastor that I worked with at the time, his wife passed of cancer, and he decided to retire. And when he retired, my job that I had going back to retired with him. And so I ended up looking for a job, ended up in Georgia. So
now, what do you credit your longevity? Usually, and I'm not going to make a general statement, but it's a youth pastor, someone that's there for a while, and then they kind of move into the associate. Maybe one day leading a church of their own or being on another staff or whatever, but you've just kind of put your nose to the grindstone and just stayed in the same place. How come?
Some of it could be stubbornness, I guess. I don't know. But I think part of it is just that I tell my students all the time, I'm like, if you're really listening for the voice of God, when he tells you to do something, you keep doing it until he tells you to stop it and do something else. And I haven't heard God really tell me to stop doing it. And as at least the primary thing. And so it's just kind of been at a bunch of different churches now over different years and different places. And it still just seems to be what I'm called to. But at the same time, my training that I got in college at Lee University, where I went, was to be a senior pastor. I didn't do the youth ministry track there. I did the senior pastor track. And so I find myself kind of in quasi associate pastors or executive pastor roles, even though I'm not that actual position. I'm running staff meetings when people are out of town. I'm preaching on Sunday mornings when people are out of town. I don't really see it as, I'm not a pastor of the church. My parents that I have for my students, the people that are in the church, they're all part of my youth ministry. And so I need all of them to be part of it. And so I need to be a pastor for all of them, not just for my students.
Love that. Pastor Brent Ritter is the student and discipleship pastor there at Hope Church. We talked to Pastor Mark Jordan about 3-4 weeks ago. I think it was a great interview on Two Pastors Unplugged. I love that. I did mention that you've seen a lot of changes. I have too. We all have, right? But you've seen some of your kids now are having kids of their or grandkids of their own. It's kind of crazy, isn't it? It just kind of flies by. What changes have you had to make? What changes have you made internally to just because hey, you can't lead a group the same way you did back in 1995, right?
No, absolutely not. Yeah, no. I think back then I realized. Well, back then I didn't realize rather that I wasn't cool, even though I was right out of high school. I tell all my leaders now, because I'll take guys that are right out of high school and say, hey, here's a 6th grade group, and let's jump in and let's lead this group of kids. And I think when I was that age, I thought that I was cool, but what I've realized over the years is that as soon as you graduate high school, you're just not cool anymore. And I think I've had to embrace my age, and especially as I've gotten to the point now where I'm older than most of my kids' parents. That's different when most of my kids' parents are in their early 40s or somewhere along that line, maybe mid 40s. I'm at least a couple years older than them, if not sometimes even more. And so I'm kind of like seeing a lot of change in the way that interact with families, interact with parents. And, but even as a young person, I found out that, I had one parent who came to me and his 17-year-old daughter, he was trying to figure out how to help her with something. And I was probably 23 or 24 at the time. And I'm like, Daryl, why are you talking to me about this? I don't have a 17-year-old daughter. And he's like, yeah, but you've been working with teenagers for more years than I have. You've had more teenagers at 17 than I have. And I realized that the biggest thing for me at that point in time was to try to be a resource for my leaders, to try to be a resource for my parents, and to be a conduit so that they can help their teen and their student enjoy God's presence in their life and really learn to live the fullness of what God has for them right now, not something in the future or whatever's coming down the road, but that they are part of the church and that they are the church right now. And so, yeah, it's I've seen so many changes. It's crazy, from no internet all the way up to now that everything is AI, So for me internally, I've changed the way that I preach. I've changed the way that I talk to students. I'm a lot more direct than I used to be. Have to be more creative than I used to be. And then at the same time, though, I have a lot more tools and a lot of help to get me there. So that I didn't have before.
Pastor Brent Ritter of Hope Church. Yeah, I remember. I mean, we're talking late 80s, early 90s. And we could get away with, a rockathon or, some kind of, something like that. But almost these days, that's big. That's a snore right there. That's
absolutely. Yeah.
Tell us some of the things that you've done creatively. Maybe, we've got a lot of folks that watch and listen to the podcast, and normally they are lead pastors or associates, but it's very, very important. And I'm preaching to the choir here to have a youth pastor, a youth leader, someone who can disciple them to just love them, period. and put their roots down and just focus and say, hey, I'm here until whenever, but I'm going to see God really change some lives. Talk about the creativity to help some of the younger guys out there.
Well, I think one of the things is to not try to overdo it. I mean, I think a lot of times it used to be too back in the day, it was the more gross you could be, the more you would get connections with kids. If I can put oatmeal in a shoe and make a kid eat it, then then every kid's going to come to youth group. And they see that on YouTube every day. There's nothing there. So really more about the interactions and the fun that they can have with each other. They really miss the camaraderie and the society that we had growing up, on the block and just hanging out in the woods, trying to find that. So as much as we can, I try to create environments where they can do things together. Prayer stations was one of those things that we do. We do a lot of that kind of creative kind of look at how do we take kids through a journey on a single night of worship in a different aspect, something they can do with their hands, something they can take home. We use old school techniques a lot of times too, though, because I could use an app and have them take notes or things like that. But I have these little bulletins that they have, and we pass out pens and these little papers and clipboards and stuff like that. And I have kids who love the tactile sense of being able to write down and fill in blanks as we talk, and they keep all that stuff. There's one girl who's got a notebook full of all these little sheets that we have out every week. So stuff like that. But we also, we're doing Nerf wars and water wars and all kinds of things. Color. It's a lot of war. I don't know. And as I'm talking to you, I'm like, we're shooting kids with Nerf guns and water balloons and stuff. But all that stuff is interactive. All that stuff is to do that. We're really trying to create family more than anything else. And family is a difficult thing for a lot of these kids. And I experienced that growing up myself. Even though I had a kind of a nuclear family, my family was not real tight with each other. And I think as more separated and as polarized as our communities are right now, the more that they can come to a single place and feel like they belong, and they can find some purpose, and that they can have a view of what their life might be in the future, the better. And we really try to put them to work. I mean, our students run our church. They really do. They're on our main worship team. They run our nursery. They run our children's ministry. They're involved everywhere in the life of our church. So I think that's one of the creative things too. It's ministry is for them. It's not just for the adults in the room.
Hey, we hear that you're loving Two Pastors Unplugged, so we want to remind you to hit the subscribe button right there on the bottom and give this video a thumbs up. And if you're an audio only, we love you. Thank you for listening to us. And you can subscribe wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, wherever. And there's a new episode that drops every Tuesday morning, so look out for that. And hey, thanks for listening. Now, back to the show.
It sounds to me, and by the way, you're listening to Two Pastors Unplugged, Pastor Brent Ritter of Hope Church. Sounds to me like that you get right there in the midst of them. I mean, Nerf and just getting dirty with them, but you're also listening to them. And that's I remember back in the day, we did more talking or more preaching than we did. I mean, effective preaching, of course, is a good thing, but if that's all you get and there's no listening aspect of the relationship, it's not really a relationship, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we even while I'm talking, some of my older leaders are always they're always talking like, I don't know how you keep talking, because they don't have a great attention spans. But I believe that we do them a disservice by playing into the fact that they don't have great attention spans. We need to do something to keep their attention. And so I ask a lot of questions while I'm speaking. I have a lot of interaction with them. I want to hear what they have to say. It sometimes throws me, and I have to, take a turn in what I'm talking about, because I hear an answer from them, and the rest of my notes don't make sense anymore. I've got to go where they went and talk to what they have. So, taking that scripture, being ready in and out of season, I have to be ready, to respond to what they have. But we also, to listen to them. We have special nights where the senior pastor, Mark, that you've already talked about, and I will sit down and they write out as many questions as they want. And it could be about theology. It could just be about life in general. And we'll respond to them theologically from a biblical perspective about the world that they live in, and the questions, the first time we did it, is like, were dinosaurs real? Stuff like that, but now it's like, how do I live in my home when my parents don't believe, or my parents are breaking up? What's my part in this? And how can I live in this situation? And real questions, they want answers to real things. And listening to them is so important. And spending that time giving them value is so important.
Did they ever make you sweat? I mean, I think I would be a puddle of nervousness on what's coming up. Or did you pre-read the questions in advance? How'd that work for you?
No, they go to their small groups before. We normally do a small group session where they talk and with trusted adults, after every worship session. So we have worship and a message, and then they go into their small group and discuss and, break things down. That's kind of the regular program anyway for most people, but we flip it upside down. They go to their small group first and they come up with these questions both individually and together. Yeah. And then their small group leaders hand us a stack of papers and we just start at the top.
Wow.
So, yeah. And, part of it is sweating, and being honest enough to look at them sometimes and say, you know what, I don't have a good answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why are my parents breaking up? I don't really know why they're breaking up, but here's a lot of reasons why, that this happens. And here's some ways you can handle that. But, in the midst of that, your parents' relationship is not on you. So you've got to figure out how to live in that new reality. And here's how you might be able to do that. And here's what Jesus has to say about how you love your parents, even though, they're not in a great place right now. So it's things like that. And it's just being ready to respond and to be honest and not have to be the cool guy. Again, I'm an old grandpa to them is basically, what it boils down to, even though I'm not really grandpa age yet, but like that's the way they kind of see me, and I'm okay with that,
No cliches or platitudes. Just get real.
Yeah. I there's a couple of my students have a little like list they keep of all the stupid, dumb things that I say while I'm preaching, and it's really, like I'll say, somebody threw that person under the bus, but bump, and then that's in their list. It's just so I'm warts and all in front of them, and I'm really honest with them about myself, about my own walk with Christ, about my own doubts and my own craziness, and the more vulnerable I am with them, the more vulnerable they are with me.
I love it. I made the mistake years ago in the congregation, and I said, shift happens. and now here it is 8 years later, and I think it's so popular that they'll put it on my tombstone. I didn't mean for that, but that's what people do, right? Kids, adults, they catch something. And I think it's really cool. I think it's a trust factor that they trust you and that they love you and they receive from you, and they see that you're not going to give them some kind of, just empty answer that they're going to go, what in the heck did he say? I didn't even, that's way over my head. Thank God for you. We're coming up on a close, but I do want to talk about missions. We got to have you back. I'd love to talk to you more. Pick your brain about some other things real quick. I know you have gone to, what was the number I read? Over 50 mission trips. How come you don't hear much about? Do you hear much about missions these days like we used to back in the day? I hate to sound like
no. I think our church has become so consumeristic that we've lost a lot of it. It's what can I come in on Sunday and get the dose of what I need for the week as far as that, instead of going out into the world around us. I've been to about 6 or 7 different countries on mission trips, and a lot of local things too. A lot of the 50 plus mission trips are because I was in youth ministry and I'm, taking kids places and stuff. You spend a summer, and I got a middle school trip and a high school trip and and an adult trip, and then, all these types of things. So at one point in time, I was spending about 11 weeks of the year sleeping on an air mattress somewhere.
My gracious.
It was awesome. I was younger. My back probably couldn't handle it now, but and I haven't been as much as I used to. And some of that is just a sign of the times. It's harder to get people to go. And I long for it, honestly. There are times that I see something and it sparks a memory, and my heart just feels broken because I haven't been out as much as I want to be out. And but yeah, I mean, especially for students being outside of their own environment, their own little world, and getting into cross-cultural experiences, whether they're right here at home, regionally, or whether they're in another country. It wakes them up to a reality that they've never seen before. And I think some of the times the consumerism that we have, if we really understood how full our lives really were compared to other places in the world, and how weak our happiness really is, our joy is not complete because we don't understand ourselves enough, because we haven't been other places. And I mean, just being able to be in a place where people have joy but have nothing changes the perspective of a kid, where they think joy and happiness comes from what they have so much. So
I was a lead pastor over 30 years ago, and then in 1995 I went to India. And I went there to minister. And once I got there, I realized, what I have. Of course, I had, preached the gospel, but I felt so inept in a sense, because it just changed my world. I saw what you have seen in so many countries.
Yeah.
When I came back, I was a changed man, and somebody should say to those young pastors that go overseas and come back, don't try to change the church in one night.
Right. I think that's one of the reasons I've stayed in youth ministry for so long, is that, if I can change, if it's not me changing either, if I can help the Holy Spirit change the heart of somebody because of perspective, it's going to happen a whole lot easier between the ages of 11 and 18 than it does between 18 and 50. I mean, as minds are molding, if they could understand at an earlier age, it'll help us in the church in the long run. And I'm a long game person. I don't. The short term is not there. The short term is not worth it most of the time. The long game is where it is.
You're so wise. Appreciate all the hard knocks and the cuts and the victories. And you continue to pass those on to people of all ages. The show, Pastor Brent Ritter, Hope Church student and discipleship pastor. We got to get you back, talk to you. I would like to talk to you about worship and how that whole thing has changed.
Oh, Lord, yeah.
Over the years. And we could probably do 2 or 3 podcasts with that one. You're a blessing, Pastor. Would love to talk to you again. Let's set it up. And you can go to, I think it's right there, placeofhope.org. If you're watching, if you're listening, it's placeofhope.org for Hope Church there in Dallas. So love it. Hey, thanks so much for listening to Two Pastors Unplugged. Next time we'll have another amazing pastor. Until then, I'm Rick Probst. See ya.
That's a wrap of this episode of Two Pastors Unplugged. But hey, don't stop here. You can click the next video and the next one and the next one. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel and to the podcast, just search Two Pastors Unplugged on your favorite app. And we want to connect with you during the week. So go to @FaithTalk Atlanta, and we are everywhere across the board. Hey, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.